This season is edging closer and closer to legendary status as the weeks go by. 7 race winners, 4 multiple winners, and now a driver finishing first in 2 home races. Charles Leclerc is a driver who knows the highest highs and the lowest lows that the 2024 season has to offer, and what was deemed a 2-horse race in the Constructors now looks to have another prancing horse joining for the final leg. The other contenders at the front will be both disappointed and stunned by the sudden resurgence of Ferrari, however it's yet to be seen whether it will be repeated. What has been repeated, and what is making this season so enthralling, is teams falling short of their goals in the run-up to the weekend, with 3 in particular worth focusing on. We'll get onto Mercedes in a separate video, because there is an awful lot to cover here, and we simply cannot fit it all into this video alone. The other 2 are currently at the top of both championships, and were left massively disappointed by the events at Monza. Want to know where it all went wrong for McLaren and Red Bull this weekend? Their drivers are less than impressed, and some feel that their results were entirely preventable. First off, let's make sure we're on the same page with a bit of a recap. Monza was a race of unknowns as the cars lined up before the race, with the new surface and tweaks combined with the limited understanding of the hard tyre performance caused viewers and strategists alike a pretty big headache. A further headache will be felt by Lando Norris, who yet again lost out on a pole position, falling behind both his teammate and Charles Leclerc on the first lap. The shortcoming was something that he nor the team could recover from, despite the undercutting of the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc during his first stop. Meanwhile, further back, Red Bull and Mercedes slogged it out over the course of the race, with it seeming that the 2 giants of the past decade being incapable of challenging the faster cars ahead. Hamilton had the best weekend of the bunch, keeping his nose clean and out of any drama, having a surprisingly lonely race following his embittered review of his qualifying performance, with Verstappen behind him attempting to limit the passing Norris before resigning himself to a position he could only describe using expletives. George Russell managed to overcome an early disadvantage which left him requiring a front wing change, and yet somehow, despite Sergio Perez claiming that the damage was so dangerous and overwhelming, the Red Bull number 11 failed to finish in front of the damaged Mercedes, which was fighting among the Haas and Williams cars earlier on in the race. Speaking of Haas and Williams, they rounded out the points, with an impressive drive from Alex Albon and Kevin Magnussen, and a quick shout out to Franco Colapinto, who took his Williams to P12, something that Logan Sargent failed to do all season. Overall, a pretty fantastic race, but one which will leave some teams feeling massively disappointed, especially those fighting for the championships. McLaren can feel disappointed with this weekend, but at the end of the day, a combination of Ferrari's traditional Monza boost and the sheer individual brilliance of the much maligned Charles Leclerc secured yet another famous home victory for Scuderia Ferrari. The question is, was this just Ferrari doing what they do at Monza, or is this a sign that there may be 3 teams fighting for the championships after all? Well, one thing's for sure, it appears Max Verstappen has lost all hope in Red Bull's ability to bounce back this year, with him claiming that both championships are already lost, and it's all because the team has fallen short. Now, while you may be thinking that we're being hyperbolic for clicks, that couldn't be further away from the truth, as this is what the 3-time champion had to say following the race. At the moment, both championships are not realistic. I've said a lot, and now it's up to the team to come up with a lot of changes with the car, because we basically went from a very dominant car to an undrivable car in the space of 6 to 8 months. So that is very weird for me, and we really need to turn the car upside down. With how we are at the moment, we are bad everywhere, so we need a lot of changes. Well, clearly Max is less than impressed with Red Bull's capitulation, with no car beneath him to secure the Drivers' Championship which he earned such a vast gap for, and no teammate next to him who performed well enough to ensure that the Constructors is out of reach for the chasing pack. He really cannot be blamed for his frustrations with the team that is failing him more and more with each passing week. Verstappen saved the most brutal description of the car, as well as his loudest plea to the team until last, as he said, "Last year we had a great car, which was the most dominant car ever, and we basically turned it into a monster, so we have to turn it around. It doesn't matter how many weeks it takes, we just have to keep pushing and work flat out. There is no excuse." Well, I'm sure Christian Horner can just point at Toto Wolff and all of this will go away, right? Maybe throw in a couple quips about, oh, they're struggling as well. Now you might be thinking, at least McLaren didn't fully capitalize on Red Bull's position. Falling short of a race win keeps the gains that they have in the constructors limited, and Lando Norris finishing behind his teammate and Charles Leclerc keeps Max Verstappen's buffer at the top of the championship at 62 points with 9 races to go, with 3 sprint events in that time. However, Max doesn't see it like that, with him giving a point-by-point breakdown of the team's shortcomings when he was asked about Norris missing out on the win. As he said when he was asked if it was beneficial that Norris missed out on the win, "In a way, yes, but that's not how I like to look at the championship. We have to go from our own virtues, and today and this whole weekend it's been very bad. We were too slow. The 6-second pit stop of course cost me a bit. I couldn't run full power for most of the race as well with the engine because we had a little issue. Also strategy-wise, we could have done a better job to at least be a bit more in the fight. We were weak on a lot of fronts this weekend." And speaking of McLaren, they weren't exactly thrilled with the way that the race panned out. Now, I'm sure that if you told McLaren at the start of the year that they would finish with a double podium at Monza, they'd be pretty chuffed. However, the current context with their championship charges has left many celebrations of a double podium with fastest lap to boot rather muted. This is especially the case for Lando Norris, who, while he did gain on Max Verstappen's championship lead, he failed to capitalize on the poor showing by Red Bull to the extent that he should have. A big part of his shortcoming this weekend came as a result of yet another difficult first lap, something of a bad habit of Norris's. However, according to the man currently sitting second in the championship, a lot more could have been lost due to his teammate's first lap move. "I feel he got way too close for comfort. We could both have easily been out in that first corner if I broke 1 meter later. If I could rewind, I would do stuff slightly differently, but it is what it is." Charles won by 2 seconds in the end, and the fact that he got ahead probably gained him 2 seconds over the course of the race. And while we can foresee next season being pretty intense in the McLaren garage, with 2025 potentially providing a Rosberg-Hamilton-esque team fight in papaya colours, for the time being, their overall reaction is far more measured and introspective. At the end of the day, according to Norris, the failure to win the race came due to a shortcoming in terms of tyre degradation, something supported by both drivers' complaints throughout their second stint in regards to their front lefts in particular. According to Norris, the race isn't a result of poor team decision-making or an overriding error, but that doesn't stop the result from being frustrating, as he said. "Hindsight is a wonderful thing. We always review things. We are doing a very good job. Today was not our day, and we didn't get things correct, but I wouldn't say we got them wrong either. I certainly couldn't have done a one-stop as the second car, which is tougher than being the first car. Trying to keep with Oscar in the dirty air meant that I had to use a lot more tyre. That is just the price I paid." The sentiment that the team is stuck in a limbo between it being a tough result but no real blame to be divvied out is shared by both team principal Andreas Stella and fellow podium sitter Oscar Piastri, with the whole team having the overwhelming feeling that more was expected due to them having the fastest car on its day. The worry that McLaren will have moving forwards is maintaining what they've coined as papaya rules. What they basically translate to is you can race but do what is best for the team, but Oscar Piastri has demonstrated that he really doesn't care for Lando Norris's title hopes, with him not being afraid to race hard but fair for himself. While of course he is an F1 driver and he will always have his legacy in mind, the lines that the papaya rules lay out will become a hell of a lot more blurry in the future when more race wins and potentially even championships are on the line. But what do you think? Are McLaren sitting on a ticking time bomb, or will they be able to keep their car improving and their drivers on a leash? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.